Welcome to History at the OK Corral. History too real for the Westerns. Don't forget to click like, share, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and leave us a comment if you like this story. The source for tonight's episode is Warlords of Ancient Mexico, How the Mayans and Aztecs Ruled for More Than 1,000 Years, by Peter G. Soros. It is an in-depth view into this subject, and we highly recommend that you check it out. Link to purchase is below, and now, on to tonight's episode. January 16, 378 AD. Smoking Frog, a Mayan war chief from the city of Teotihuacan in the Petén Valley region, sat at the front of a war canoe laden with weapons, dried fish, fruit, and additional supplies. Somewhere between 8 to 12 warriors, acting under his command, rode swiftly, silently, down what is now the Rio San Pedro in western central Mexico. Their intention was to capture the city of Tikal by any means necessary, kill the entire ruling family, and take control of the city themselves. These men, deftly cutting their way down the river through the pre-dawn darkness, were an elite expeditionary force of shock troops whose goal was to overrun the city, kill any and everyone they could until the royal family was captured, then to not only politically take over, but spiritually dominate the city by sacrificing the entire family in a violent blood ritual that would render their spiritual authority over the great metropolis invalid. At this point, it would be a fair question to ask why one city-state of the great Mayan Empire would be attacking another. The Mayan Empire functioned more like ancient Greece than ancient Rome, as there was no central emperor or single city that held primacy over the others. Rather, there was at best a synodal and at worst combative relationship between the numerous city-states that ruled over the various regions in central Mexico. Smoking Frog was a general in this elite force, serving under his ruler, the Teotihuacanos king, Spear Thrower Owl. This fleet of war canoes had been on a relentless blitzkrieg attack for weeks now, and only a little over a week earlier had taken the town of Waka within a matter of hours. But their intended target, the culmination of their southward assault, was Tikal. The massive city, which was home to thousands of Mayan subjects, was ruled by the Emperor Jaguar. But Jaguar and the city-state had gotten out of hand in their aggressive expansion, at least by the measure of Spear Thrower Owl and his cohorts. Expansion in this case meant not only territory, but the building of spiritual power. For the Mayans, of any and all city-states within the overall empire, warfare was not only a terrestrial confrontation, but a metaphysical, spiritual one as well. Their warfare, which would ultimately evolve into what is today known as the Mayan Star Wars, were dependent entirely on divinations from their gods that were derived through a combination of celestial interpretations and blood ritual. When the time was right, according to these interpretations, the Mayan priests would pierce their tongues, lips, and genitals with the spines from stingrays, drawing them entirely through the wound and then catching the blood on a form of parchment they made from bark. This was then burned at a ceremonial altar. This was believed to be a portal to the world of the gods, through which signs could be clearly seen and directions or prophecies discerned. But to really open up the portal to the star gods, the Maya required blood sacrifice of a captured victim. And not just any victim, as not just any blood would do. Though sacrifice of common enemies would surely be pleasing to the star gods, only the sacrifice of royal blood could please them enough to open the celestial portal through which the gods might be directly contacted. For the Maya, this was a matter of life and death, a constant cosmic struggle to please insatiably bloodthirsty and uncompromising gods. Their religion was inseparable from the practicalities of their everyday life, and thus their entire existence depended on the blood sacrifice of the enemies they were able to capture. This is the reason Smoking Frog and his cohort of waterborne warriors were here. And now, as they came around a bend of the river and the smoke began to poke through the dense jungle canopy, the specter of Tikal loomed large in front of them. They carried large, circular, feather-rimmed discs emblazoned with the images of their gods into battle with them, believing that they were not mere representation of these deities, but the actual deities themselves now contained within that object and accompanying them into the fight. They also carried large manatee hide shields. These were also embedded with obsidian in traditional patterns. When the sun finally did rise, the obsidian flakes would gleam strikingly and terrifyingly in the morning glow. Though the Maya had no form of metal weapons, they carried swords crafted from local hardwoods that were shaped into clubs and then studded with obsidian spikes. Fastened to their belts were shorter daggers and quivers of darts that would be used in the reed blowguns they employed as a first offensive tactic. They carried short stabbing spears akin to wood and obsidian versions of the Ithwik, the short stabbing spear Shaka Zulu and his warriors would employ in their conquest of South Africa centuries later. They also carried throwing spears and atlatls, or spear throwers, which could be used to launch their projectile with magnitudes greater force than the human arm could muster alone. As they neared the city, Smoking Frog reminded his men of their intent and of the promises of the serpent god that they would be victorious. They launched an offensive sortie of darts, arrows, and spears against the city's guards and easily overran the city's civilian population as they stormed their way to the royal palace. After killing the guards there, the royal family was captured, brought out, and according to the Mayan hieroglyphs that would later depict this event, were, quote, made to enter the water, a Mayan euphemism for death and ritual sacrifice. This meant that they were all stripped naked and held over a stone artifice or a rock as the Mayan priest present stabbed into their heaving torso with a jagged obsidian knife, reached into the cavity, grabbed the still beating heart, and ripped it out in one deft motion. The victim would then be decapitated and their heart burned on an altar as a means of opening that vaunted portal between this world and the next. The entire royal family of Tikal, including the king, queen, and children, would suffer this fate. It was believed the more they cried out in pain and fear, the greater the power of the connection to the gods would be. The stone hieroglyph does not depict that battle itself. That we must piece together from accounts of other Mayan raids. It simply shows the new ruler, Smoking Frog, adorned in the warrior headdress of a Teotihuacano, the equivalent of a British redcoat general storming the White House and taking over the presidency under the authority of King George. He wears a large feathered headdress under the symbol of an owl, which is believed to denote his position as a general of the Teotihuacano's king, spear thrower owl. What is certain is that this picture denotes a turning point in Mayan history, one in which the Star Wars would launch into full effect. The next centuries would be laden with countless intra- and inter-tribal raids that saw countless families broken, villages burned, and captives, men, women, and children alike, made to suffer horrific sacrificial deaths, all to serve an empire that ran on their very blood. But for tonight, those are other stories for other times. But what do you think? Was Smoking Frog a good guy, a bad guy, or both? Was the Mayan Empire any better or worse than any other empire? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Thank you for tuning in to tonight's episode. Don't forget to click like, share, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. And we'll see you next time on History at the OK Corral. History Too Real for the Westerns.